Finally, the shimmering aura solidified, the cloaking spell's effects persevering as Elphaba's ragged breathing slowly steadied itself. Beads of cool perspiration dotted her brow from the sheer exertion of forcing the glamour to remain intact over her feverish form. It would take every ounce of her concentration and willpower to keep the enchantment from faltering over the days ahead. However, as the cloaking spell washed over Elphaba's features, reforming them into the illusion of a translucent alabaster skin and softly rounded edges, she could feel the magic straining against her ailing body's condition. The enchantment seemed to flicker momentarily, her true green complexion peeking through in splotchy patches as tremors of fever racked her slight frame. Anxiety blossomed in Elphaba's chest as she willed the concealing camouflage to hold fast, focusing all her magical energies on maintaining the delicate illusion despite her body's taxing protestations. If even a glimpse of her verdigris were to manifest before Glinda's family over the coming holidays, she didn't dare consider the repercussions that could befall her. A soft series of rapid knocks broke the pensive silence, startling Elphaba from her momentary reverie. "Miss Elphaba, it's Hildegard, the day housemaid. Might I enter to turn down the coverlet and prepare the ladies' chambers for the morning?" Panic gripped Elphaba as she eyed Glinda's still sleeping form. Could she trust the spell to withstand scrutiny up close while in such a frail state? Her heart thundered in her ears as she considered rousing her lover to deal with the interruption, but Glinda appeared so perfectly serene, so beautifully at peace in the warm cocoon of the bed linens. Elphaba could not bear the thought of stripping that simple tranquility away, even momentarily. Just a moment," she called out in a cracking voice, swiftly rising and cinching her cloak tighter to conceal as much of her body as possible behind the bulky folds of fabric. Steeling herself, the disguised Elphaba cleared her throat and summoned every ounce of gentility instilled during her days of etiquette training under the tutelage of the Shiz headmistress. "You may enter, Miss Hildegard." The aged woman stooped form bustled in through the carved oak door, lips pursed in concentration as she moved with practiced efficiency to straighten the rumpled bed linens and pump the mountain of plush throw cushions. "Well, friends and farting," she clucked in exaggerated surprise upon catching sight of Elphaba's pallid, clammy visage. "Don't you look like a right fright lammy? Whatever's the matter?" Elphaba opened her mouth to respond, but her throat seized with another inexpressible coughing fit, the violent hacking reverberating through her torso. She doubled over, clutching the edge of the vanity as fiery lances of pain lanced through her skull with each choking expulsion. "Miss Elphaba!" came Glinda's dismayed cry as she bolted upright, alarmed by the harsh, phlegmy sounds. The look of sleepy contentment instantly morphed into one of tender concern as she witnessed her lover's torment. Before Elphaba could wave her off, Glinda flung herself from the coverlet and rushed to her side. The soft, delicate hands that so lovingly caressed every inch of Elphaba's verdant flesh now stroked her back in soothing motions as the latest bout of convulsions finally subsided, leaving her utterly spent and quivering. There, my love. You're all right," Glinda gently soothed, guiding Elphaba back onto the plush mattress as she struggled to catch her ragged breath. The blonde pressed her lips to her beloved's feverish brow, frowning at the unnatural warmth she encountered there. "Elphie, you're burning up. This cold is only worsening by the hour." Elphaba felt her pulse quicken at the tender proximity, Glinda's floral shampoo and intoxicating natural scent overwhelming her already scrambled senses. She swallowed hard, forcing a hoarse chuckle to hide the gnawing anxiety taking root within her psyche over whether her enchantment remained intact. "Don't fret, my pretty. Elphaba rasped weakly, her tongue struggling to find the words against the sandpaper abrasion scorching her throat. "I've endured far worse ills than a piddling spring cold." She forced a ghastly grin, every muscle screaming in protest as she gently cupped Glinda's porcelain cheek. The lemon crest only made her more achingly aware of the illusion her skin had become with the enchantment, devoid of its true verdant luster. "It would take more than a few sniffles to prevent me from being by your side on this most sacred Vindomesian holidays." The words felt like scorching lies as they passed her lips. In truth, Elphaba never felt so dreadfully wretched in her life. The acute aches rippling through her body with each racking cough made her want to curl into a tight ball and simply cease existing, if only for a few blessed moments of reprieve. Her head throbbed mercilessly, eyes burning with each mortifying sniffle and the torrent of foul-smelling discharge from her inflamed sinuses. Yet her mind whirled with even more pernicious worries than merely physical frailties. Doubt and dread waged a brutal war within her psyche over whether this frail glamour concealing her true emerald visage could possibly hold against the scrutiny of strangers. particularly the distrustful, judgmental scrutiny of Glinda's aristocratic parents, and their impression of the uncouth, peculiar being their daughter had apparently become enamored with. Flashes of icy disdain and unmasked revulsion on Lord and Lady Upland's faces the previous evening lanced through Elphaba's mind like spectre-forged daggers. The way they'd appraised her verdant complexion with such naked disgust, as if she were something vile and repulsive, permitted a tenuous existence at their societal stratum only through reluctant tolerance of the sweet Glinda's whimsical eccentricities. The memory of Lord Upland's crystal wine tumbler shattering against the parquet floor as thick, uncomfortable silence descended still haunted her. Would she be forever branded by their disapproving glares and clipped rejoinders filtered through the thinnest veneers of genteel propriety? Just another curiosity to be politely endured and quietly scorned like so many others. The prospect made her throat constrict painfully. Glinda had been achingly oblivious to subtle indignities at that moment. Her focus had been solely upon showering Elphaba with empathetic reverence and a defiant rebuke of her parents' reactions. Sweet, beautiful Glinda, utterly ignorant of the 1,000 minor degradations her peculiar love had already been subjected to simply for existing amongst polite society as herself. For that, Elphaba could never begrudge her. Not after the blonde had so stubbornly upheld her devotion in the face of such stunned incredulity from her own family. But what if a single thread unraveled? What if the cloaking glamour slipped, even microscopically, to unveil the mistruth beneath? Already Elphaba could feel the enchantment faltering as her fever spiked and chills racked her trembling form anew. Blistering perspiration beaded across the delicate planes of her brow as she fought to maintain the charade through sheer, stubborn willpower. To have her emerald eccentricities laid bare before the Uplands, especially after Glinda had staked her heart so valiantly upon their union receiving parental benediction, would surely break the blonde's spirit. And resilient though Elphaba's heart may be, that was a prospect she could scarcely bear to entertain without veritable terror gripping her very core. Prismatic memories flickered through her feeble consciousness of her final night at Shiz before departing for the Arduena estate over spring recess. The haunted, pleading look in her whip-smart roommate's eyes as Elphaba stoically packed her research materials in preparation for the imminent meeting with the Board of Regents. "You cannot work yourself into the grave before we depart, Elphie," Nora had softly implored, wringing her hands anxiously as the raven-haired girl tidied the final stacks of parchment, graphs, and calculations. "Glinda expects your vigor and liveliness to sweep her off her feet upon arriving at her family's estate, not some half-dead husk." The blonde naturalist's words carried somber vivacity then, steeped in earnest fear any true friend would bear for another working themselves into an early grave over unfathomable obsessions. They echoed with even more poignancy now as Elphaba huddled upon Glinda's sumptuous mattress, body racked by convulsions and scorched from the inside by insidious fever. Yet there was no choice but to plow forward, brushing aside all corporeal distractions and weaknesses. Too much had been sacrificed, too many hypotheses tested, calculations rendered, and theorems shattered and reformed from their humble shards. The bitter sleepless nights and volatile magical experimentation to unearth the infinite mysteries of animate energy, the primal life force that thrummed through every living organism in Oz. To abandon that lofty pursuit now would be to render all her suffering meaningless. But it is about so much more than academic accolades. This revelatory animate energy research represented Elphaba's burning crusade, her sacred clarion call to stand as an uncompromising voice for the marginalized animals ruthlessly oppressed under the wizard's tyrannical regime. If she could unravel the boundaries of arcane convention, it could spark the uprising and social reform so desperately needed to end its Oz's subjugated status quo. Yet that all paled in comparison to the truly paramount objective consuming Elphaba's feverish thoughts as she huddled upon the mattress, forming hairline fractures across her indomitable resolve. Of course, the revered Vindominsian Easter celebration loomed, the specter of failure in endearing herself to the Uplands cast a longer, more insidious shadow by the hour. Panic gripped Elphaba's thundering heart as she felt the cloak and glamour sputter and flicker dangerously with each bone-rattling paroxysm of coughing. Lurid emerald splotches marred her ashen countenance in fleeting patches as the enchantment strained against her depleted constitution. If this fragile illusion failed now, after Glinda had so proudly proclaimed their courtship to her aghast family, it would demolish any prospect of their blessing this union. The humiliation sparked prismatic recollections of Elpha's youth in Munchkinland, her father Frexbar's face twisted in revulsion upon first laying eyes on his newborn daughter's striking verdant skin, as if she were a blasphemous abomination against the natural order itself. And time had never eroded the sting of that visceral rejection, leaving Elphaba's psyche haunted by the phantom agonies of parental abandonment.